time for another first run impressions video. Good morning, YouTube. What's up, everybody? I hope you're safe and healthy and happy and doing okay. We have a visitor here. I can barely see her, but she's here. So it feels like I haven't done a shoot video in a while. The last two videos I did were about, can I help you? Okay, I need you to sit next to me, not on top of me, okay? Okay. Okay, sit. Like I was saying, the last two videos that I did were on the New York City Marathon and that weekend, and honestly, those were two of some of my favorite videos that I've ever done on this channel. But today we're back to the bread and butter of the Run Like Hell channel, and we're doing another first run impressions video. So probably at this point, about 2 summers ago, I want to say summer of 2020, I reviewed a lightweight stability shoe by New Balance called the Prism V1. And I really liked that shoe. I thought it had a lot of good qualities, and oftentimes with stability shoes, they're pretty bulky, got a lot of technology going on, and tend to be just like heavy shoes that feel like bricks on your foot, or at least they can feel like bricks on your foot. But the Prism was different because it was a lightweight stability shoe that you could kind of go fast in, and it didn't bog you down on the runs, and also the stability technology in them was pretty minimal, although it did get the job done. But today, to get to it, we're gonna be talking about my first run impressions of the New Balance Prism V2. Does this shoe perform better than the original version? Do I like it more than the original version? Well, I'll tell you off the bat, I wasn't a huge fan on my first run today in this shoe. We're gonna talk about why, but first, let's get to the running footage and then we'll chat all about the Prism V2. Today, I do want to let you know that this shoe was sent to me by New Balance. However, they're not going to see this video before you. They can't tell me what to say, and all of my opinions are always my own. So let's start with the specs. For a women's size 8, this shoe comes in at 7.7 ounces, but for my size 10.5 women's, this shoe came in at 9.4 ounces. It has a 6mm drop with 30mm of stack in the heel and 24 in the forefoot. And for me, the New Balance Prism V2 is true to size. So let's start with the upper of the Prism V2. I don't know where my original V1 is. It's probably packed away somewhere in a box that I can't get to right now. But what I will tell you is that the Prism V2's upper is quite updated. It's still gonna be an engineered mesh, but as you can see in that forefoot, it's pretty translucent. You can see your sock, which means tons of breathability there. V1's upper was a little bit more thick. It was still lightweight, but this kind of takes it up a notch. In the midfoot, we don't have really a ton of overlays. There's some structure to that midfoot, and you have that New Balance logo that can kind of make it a little bit stiffer there to hold your midfoot in place. But if we go to the back, the heel counter is very sturdy, and it kept my heel locked in. So I do think that this upper is a big improvement over the original version for a couple of reasons. Like I said, it's going to be a lot more breathable. However, today was a pretty damn cold day here in New York, and that wind, because there was a lot of it today, was really blowing through the forefoot of this shoe. I think that will be fantastic in the summer, in the spring, in warmer climates. Today, a little bit cold, but my feet did warm up to it. The tongue seems to be a little bit more structured, and it's gusseted, which is fantastic. We love to see it. And in that toe box, I did have a nice amount of room for my toes to splay. I didn't feel like the shoe felt narrow, whether it was in that forefoot or that midfoot. Again, I do have a narrow foot, as you know, but I seem to think that, you know, I don't foresee a lot of different foot types having an issue here unless you have like a super wide foot. I did have a little bit of heel slippage, I'll admit, but I used that last loophole and that alleviated the problem and really helped to make the shoe feel even more like a glove on my foot. And I had really no issues with this upper. My problem doesn't lie with the upper, it lies with the midsole, which we'll talk about now. But in regards to the upper, I had no issues with blisters, hot spots, or irritation. And I think they did a good job revamping and improving something that was already decent. So now, let's talk about the midsole. Here, New Balance is using their Fuelcell foam, which is supposed to be bouncy, responsive, and somewhat soft. It's more of their performance-based foam. And on that medial side, there's also a posting. You can't really see it here because it is the same color as the foam, but towards the back of the arch, the foam does feel firmer. And that's supposed to help pronators be a little bit more stable on the platform. But Fuelcell foam is one of those foams that feels different to me in like every shoe. And I understand that can be different densities of Fuelcell that are being utilized. That could be different durometers, different compounds. I don't know, you name it. I'm sure there's tons of scientific explanations for that. However, this midsole just does not do it for me. The V2's midsole here just feels kind of dead. It feels firm underfoot, pretty unforgiving, and I'm not feeling any of that bounce and response that Fuelcell foam is known for. The first real shoe that comes to mind when I think of Fuelcell foam, besides the RC Elite, because that's a super shoe, but the other shoe that comes to mind is the Rebel. That shoe has some magical Fuelcell foam. It's soft, it's bouncy, it's forgiving, it's fun. I don't feel any of those characteristics here in the Prism V2. And I'm just wondering why that is. And regardless of all the scientific explanations for it, why isn't that foam being utilized here in the Prism? I ran 5 miles in this shoe today, and the first 3 miles of the run, this felt kind of harsh. I'll be honest. And I was going at an easier pace for myself, like 850s, kind of just chugging along. And yeah, I don't know. This just did not feel great. I can't imagine wearing that shoe for like 10 plus miles. There's just no way. And this is supposed to be a daily trainer. You're supposed to be allowed to do that or able to do that in this shoe. The foam does feel kind of squishy to the touch if you kind of sink your fingers into it. But I'll tell you, it does not feel like that under your foot. After the first 3 miles, the shoe opened up a little bit. I think probably what was happening is the midsole warmed up a little with my body heat and just hitting the pavement. Maybe it kind of loosened up a little bit. But I mean, it really wasn't anything to write home about. It didn't feel great still. It just felt better than it did. One positive thing I will say about this midsole though is that it feels pretty snappy in that forefoot, and I don't think that that's because of the foam by any means. I think that's really with how the shoe is sculpted, how that midsole kind of contours. It does kind of curve up a little bit, and that forefoot has a nice snap to it. So when you are picking up the pace, which I did for like a couple of strides in the later half of my run, I do feel like this shoe can kind of pick it up a notch and can make you feel like you're going faster in your stride with that snappier toe off. But really, this shoe leaves a lot for me to be desired. In that first version of the shoe, I did feel that response, that softness. It wasn't quite as exciting as the Rebel is, but it was there, and it felt more similar to the original Rebel than this feels to the new Rebel. As far as that medial posting goes, this shoe did help me with my pronation problems. So that is a plus. And if you're a person who likes a firmer ride and needs a tiny bit of stability, this could be a go-to shoe for you. But it's not really for me. I would love to see New Balance take this shoe and for V3, make it just a little bit more forgiving in that forefoot so that it doesn't feel uncomfortable taking it longer distances. It stinks because I really wanted to like this midsole. I thought I was gonna like it before I put my foot in the shoe. It feels nice and soft, but just kind of missed the mark for me, unfortunately. And it's definitely possible that this is the exact same midsole as the first version of this shoe, but it does not feel like that to me. It looks like it, doesn't feel like it. If we turn this shoe over, you'll see that New Balance is using their endurance rubber here in the Prism V2. It's a different pattern than was on the version 1 of the shoe. We have rubber pretty much covering the entire forefoot. Then we have some exposed Fuelcell in the midfoot, and then kind of outlining the heel is more of that endurance rubber. I have mixed feelings about this rubber. In terms of traction, I think this thing did great today, and I think it would do great in wetter conditions. I know that that rubber feels tacky and grippy and is not going to cause any problems in inclement weather. But I do wonder if this rubber contributes to the shoe feeling too firm in the forefoot. As you can see, there's a ton of it here, and it's pretty thick if you look at it up close. So in other experiences that I've had with shoes that have kind of thick rubbers for the outsoles, I have realized that it can negatively impact the ride. That could be what's happening here. I'm not really sure, just something that I'm thinking about. The rubber is stiff and helps it to kind of snap back in place pretty quick. So like I said, kind of mixed feelings about it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. There's pros and cons to it. The New Balance Prism V2 is $119.95 on runningwarehouse.com, which I think is a fair price for this shoe. It's on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to running shoes. $120, not too bad. Although it's not really a shoe that I would reach for or seek out. If you're looking for a firmer shoe, need some lightweight stability, and don't want to pay $160 for it, well then, here's your shoe right here. I'll put a link in the description of this video so you can click that and pick up your own pair if you'd like. Keep in mind that is an affiliate link with Running Warehouse, however that doesn't mean much for you. It just helps out my channel so I can keep making these videos and giving you my opinions on shoes that maybe I'm not so crazy about. And I'm not so crazy about this, as you could probably tell. I do think New Balance has a good idea here. I just think that the execution going forward needs to be a little bit different. I can't say that this is gonna go to 50 miles. I'm kind of leaning towards it probably won't. I will probably take it on like 1 or 2 more runs just to see if I start to get along with it a little bit better. But as of right now, I'm kind of not really digging it. But time will tell if my feelings change. Well, that concludes my first run impressions of the New Balance Prism V2. If you enjoyed this video, please like it down below and subscribe. And when you're done with all that, hit the notifications bell so you can find out every time I upload a new video. Let's go Lakers! I have some more videos for you next week, but in the meantime, get out there, get on the grind, and don't forget to run like Heller. See you next time.